When you love someone, you just know it. Maria Tolbert was the most beautiful woman that any man would ever see. She had this beauty mark on the left side of her cheek, and when she laughed it sounded as if music had been played. Maria moved to Sacramento, California 2 years after Doug's wife had left. She left Doug with nothing but the $2,500 ring that he had purchased and the signed divorce papers. She even took the damn kid. But when Maria entered the smog-covered city, Doug felt that there was air to be breathed again. "Hey, can you help me?" When Doug heard the sound of Maria's voice, Doug felt that life felt like life again. "Yes, where you are headed?" Sweat rolled down Doug's face. Doug's fingers tapped on the coffee machine that filled the silence break room. Maria lifted her eyes from her paper, irritated with Doug's presence. "Can you please stop with the noise?" Maria's voice became higher than that one soprano in Doug's church choir. If she did not hurry up, the boss would start with the presentation, and with Doug being the coffee boy, his presence was needed. "Hey, is my assistance still needed?" It was then that Doug's stomach had sheltered butterflies. Doug waited for Maria to speak again. She was so beautiful. Doug had become completely fixated on how her hips fitted that badge knee-length pleated skirt. It excited Doug. Maria's eyes had grew big and her face a bit agitated. "Oh my God, you creep." Doug was lost for a word that wasn't what he had waited 5 extra minutes to hear Maria say. Doug searched his already scattered brain to piece together what had just happened. When Doug finally looked down at his pants, his penis stood like it was about to perform on Broadway. Doug knew at that moment what had startled Maria, Mr. Happy. Doug walked toward the conference room. As Doug approached the door, there Maria sat, all pretty with her smooth brown legs crossed. Doug opened the door. He walked toward Maria as if she reminded him of doom. Doug's heart speed up like a NASCAR race car. "Maria, darling." Mr. Happy apologies that he introduced himself before he had a proper date. "Did you just call me darling?" When Maria rolled her eyes, that reassured Doug that maybe when he called her darling, that was something that might have sounded right only in his head. As the sweat dripped down Doug's face as if he had just stepped out of a shower, Doug slurred back a response. Why yes, I did." After Doug had responded back to Maria's question, he realized that he looked worst. Doug thought, "Oh shit," but never said it out loud. Doug busted into tears. He sniffled, babbled. This made Doug look like a 6-month-old baby that tried to speak their first words and couldn't. "Maria, I'm pitiful," Doug said while he blew his nose. "Yes, you are," Maria responded back to Doug with this sardonic look on her face. In a weird way, Maria reminded Doug of his now ex-wife Catherine, the way she could make Doug's dick feel about 5 inches whenever she would pierce her eyes at him. Doug already had a shitty job at Colfax Products where he wore the same black crease sweatpants and dingy white-collared button-up. The last thing he needed was another bitter woman that reminded him that he was an irrelevant part of life. After Doug daydreamed about how shitty his life was, Doug became conscious at the sound of his overweight boss Big Belly Bill's voice. Well, that wasn't really his name. That was just what Doug called him when he was at home alone, as he would pour his heart out to his cat. "Doug, where is my darn coffee? And it better not be too hot." Doug hated the sound of Bill's voice. It always reminded Doug of his 3rd grade math teacher, Mrs. Clutch, how she scrapped her nails across the chalkboard when Doug would get a problem wrong while being tutored. Doug bent down toward the oak conference table to pick up Bill's coffee from Starbucks. Doug whispered, "I hate this job." "What was that, Doug?" "Nothing. Just noticed how beautiful it was outside, boss." Maria sat next to Doug. He now knew Maria would think of him as a coward after he had not repeated what he had said to his boss. "So, for you real employees and Doug, there is someone new to the Colfax team that deserved a Colfax Company proper introduction," Bill said. "Maria, darling." After Bill called Maria darling, she stood and introduced herself to everybody. "Wait 1 minute, did he just call her darling?" And she smiled. "It's official." Maria screwed the boss otherwise, who would just smile at this cheeseburger-stuffed jerk. Bill looked at Maria as she stood from her seat like she was a Krispy Kreme donut. Doug would have sworn that salvia dripped from Bill's mouth. "Good morning everyone, my name is Maria Tolbert and I will be the new vice president of the design department." Wait, did she just say vice president of the design department? Doug had tried to get that position since he came to the company, and now it went to the new chick that now for certain Doug knew had screwed the boss. "Doug, my damn coffee is too hot." Bill said. "Okay, boss, would you like me to run to Starbucks really fast and get you another coffee out of my own money, of course?" "No, you idiot, I would like for you to blow my coffee until I feel that it is at a drinkable level." Doug glued his top lip to his bottom lip, which made a small hole in between his lips, and started to blow Bill's coffee. "How long do I have to blow it for?" The entire conference room laughed. 15 minutes should be enough time. Doug had never wanted 15 minutes to come so quick in his life. As he watched the clock on the wall over the window pane for only 7 minutes, Doug's eyes had begun to cross. Only at shitty Colfax could someone be humiliated this way, Doug said to himself in silence. As 15 minutes had arrived, Doug began to count down in his head as if he was at a New Year's Eve bash. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, "It's ready, sir." "Thank you, Doug." After being humiliated, Doug turned and looked at Bill and sighed, "You're the world's greatest boss." It was then that Doug had planned to take over the company and marry Maria. "Hey, Doug, could you give me a ride home?" Doug couldn't believe his ears. Maria Tolbert had just asked for a ride home. "Sure, beautiful." Maria smiled at Doug as if she had saw something in him that she didn't see in him earlier that day. "When I come back from my desk, I have to get some files. Then we can leave, Doug." With a huge grin on his face, Doug just looked into Maria's chestnut brown eyes and said, "Okay, beautiful," as if he was hypnotized. Doug was confused. He had called Maria beautiful twice and she hadn't threatened to slap him yet. All he could think to himself was that his charm